All right, the stream is live.
All right. So, as everyone who's remotely connected to the news has probably heard, the U.S. just bombed Iran today. We used bunker busters dropped from B-2s on all three of their major nuclear sites, and damage assessment is still incoming, but it's most likely pretty bad just from initial reports. And, of course, we were the only country that had both the planes and the bombs take these sites out, and we probably just did. Again, we'll learn more tomorrow, but according to Trump, at least, it was a success.
Yeah, but I'm going to say this. So you think that, what's Trump's goal here? Is he simply trying to pressure Iran into, a nuclear deal, which he feels that they'll follow?
I mean, probably. And also this raises the threat of some kind of U.S. retaliation if Iran ever tries to go back to building a nuclear bomb. Because, we've committed now.
Yeah, because we've kind of diplomatically committed to, saying, Iran is not getting a nuke.
Yeah, and of course, now they know we mean it. That's the important. You gotta establish deterrence, and we just did that.
Yeah, that's the thing with. So, what do you think about this whole situation? Why do you think Iran should not have a nuke, and why not?
I think they should not have a nuke. I mean, among many things, it's just generic nuclear proliferation bad, especially of hostile regimes. And also, there's the risk that they will nuke Israel if they get it. I mean, and consequences for them be damned. So I think that regime and its proxies are too dangerous to get a nuclear weapon. So yeah, I do support efforts to stop that program.
Yeah. So you think that Iran could very well just nuke Israel if they get a nuke, and that's,
I mean, it does make them exponentially more dangerous.
I see.
So yeah, I think it is in our interest for them not to get a nuke. And I think if this spills over and topples the Iranian regime, after a defeat like this, they saw big protests in recent years. That regime is not popular, and it might just...
yeah.
This might
that's another thing, yeah. So that also mentioned that there is one thing to note. If it is true that we don't want Iran getting a bomb. If Iran wants to have nuclear power, I don't really see an issue with that if they're just doing it for that.
But the question is, do they really need nuclear power? They're a Middle Eastern oil exporting country, and I guess there's diversification reasons, but that should be the limit of it, if so.
Yeah.
Civilian use.
Yeah, but the thing is so the thing is so I don't think that there is not going to be a ground invasion of Iran. I'm very confident in saying that because, first of all, I also have to mention the fact that Iran is simply a lot harder to invade than Iraq, and I think everyone in the military knows that. Part of the reason probably we went into Iraq is because we could actually, we took out Iraq in 2 weeks. Can't really do that with Iran because the terrain is way more unfavorable.
Right, it's a much bigger country, larger military, harder to pacify, and it's not either Iraq or Afghanistan, and the American public would not have the appetite for such a boots on the ground commitment.
Yeah.
I'm
also not sure. I seriously, and you also have to remember about the Iraq War. Literally everyone at the time supported it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, early in the war on terror, people forget it's been memory hold, but that war had near universal support. In the US
and I remember because what's funny about that war is that it's an example. Part of the reason Obama became president is because big reason he won the Democratic primary in 2008 is because he used the fact that Hillary supported the Iraq War against her at a time when it was unpopular.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a lot of the people who are chanting America First now were very big gung-ho patriots back then.
Yeah.
And,
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, and they said opposing the war made you a traitor and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's like, I mean, I do wonder the overlap of people, who are anti-Iraq today and people who support it. I know Ron Paul supported the Iraq war at a time.
Yeah, I think he voted to fund both of them.
But the point is, if you had committed this, understand, like, you have to understand that it genuinely took Bush like a year to get the support needed for the Iraq war.
But he ultimately got it in the end, is the thing. So
yeah, but the point is, it took him an entire year to get support to invade a country that is way easier to invade than Iran, and that at least at the time everyone thought we had grounds to invade. Turns out we didn't, but like nobody knew in 2003. Like,
no, nobody knew. But the thing is, yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to drum up support for a ground invasion of Iran with all that's going now. But I think these strikes will see massive support.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what the polls are when they come out. But my guess is that they're going to be pretty popular, especially among Trump's MAGA base. Their commitment to him goes much, much deeper than any commitment to populist isolationism.
Yeah, the thing is that the other thing is I have to mention the fact that Trump, was almost commemorated yesterday for stopping a war between India and Pakistan.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Pakistan even proposed that he get a Nobel Peace Prize over that. And
yeah, and to be fair, like,
now.
brokering a ceasefire between India and Pakistan is like genuinely like impressive.
That is. And supposedly also between Congo and Rwanda, which he tweeted about that at length and made himself the center of it, of course.
Yeah. So I do wonder, like, it's like, but I think, do you think Trump, like, does Trump actually want to see the Iranian regime fall?
I mean, probably. If he can bring that about just by stuff like this, taking out their nuclear and military assets and hoping the regime weakens, sure. Of course, he's not willing, as we said, to go all in on a ground invasion, but I think most of the U.S. foreign policy establishment wants to see the Iranian regime fall at some point.
You have to remember the fact the foreign policy doesn't necessarily represent the voting public. Are there any polls on this? Like, I do wonder, like, does what the foreign policy hawks, want actually represent what the average person in America wants? Or,
well, that goes into the questions of how much does the average person know about the situation, which in any democracy is kind of dubious, like how informed they are. So, yeah, but like I said, my guess is that there will be a rally around the flag effect, at least for a time, with these strikes.
Yeah, the thing is, in wars, it's certainly happened. There's a big history of this in wars. But in the first years of a war, there's always kind of there's an effect of like, people generally just kind of go by whatever the government does in like the early years of a war. And then like, in the later years, if things end up not working, they might not do that. Like,
yeah, we talked about Iraq was popular early on and it became unpopular amidst, as the war dragged on, no end in sight, amidst mass casualties. And now it's the byword for interventions we don't like. So yeah, he's going to keep this simple. He's going to limit it to airstrikes and defensive actions of Israel. And I don't think we're going to see, we might, and also maybe some special forces raids, but I don't think we're going to see a headlong invasion.
Yeah, obviously nobody's going to headlong.
I don't think either the U.S. or Iran would have any kind of stomach for that.
Yeah, I do wonder if, this might be the beginning of the end for the Iranian regime.
I hope so. Yeah, because they've seen mass protests on many occasions in the last decade. The regime doesn't seem to be very popular. It doesn't seem to have much of a grassroots base. And of course, the risk with that is this could create a rally around the flag effect for them, Like, most people don't like being bombed, no matter by whom.
Yeah, and that's the thing to remember about Iran. Like,
And the other thing is, they're not total maniacs. I do not think they would want to escalate too far because we hold all the military cards in this equation. Like, I think Iran might want to make a deal soon if they have their best interest in mind.
So you think Iran, what I'd probably say is that Trump will probably but not so much the fact that Trump will also have to negotiate with Israel in this aspect. I do wonder how he's going to handle that.
Well, yeah. But the
problem is that America, I'm just a little worried that America and Israel might have a conflict of interest.
I mean, for the time being, we both have an interest in taking out those nuclear sites and destroying Iran's nuclear weapons program. And I think if Iran agrees to stop doing that and stop attacking its neighbors and funding proxy forces, then I think both Israel and the U.S. will be satisfied with that outcome.
I see. But, what if America signs a deal and Israel doesn't support it? Like, that's,
I mean, again, we're
honestly, knowing Trump, he'd probably just tell him to fuck off. Like,
that's my best guess. And again, we're the strongest.
Trump doesn't like being pushed around.
He does not. Which leads me to think he was not pushed into this by Israel or anyone else. And apparently Tulsi and Vance both advised against this, and he told them to screw off. So
yeah, the funny is that I think that it's very clear that Trump doesn't want to be submissive to Israel. Like, that's just not what he.
No, he's no one's puppet, at least in his own head. And so, yeah, the relationship between him and Netanyahu is purely reciprocal. It's not that of a puppet or of either side.
Yeah, there's no real evidence to say that Trump is much. How is Trump much more anything Trump he almost pressured Netanyahu with a ceasefire early on in the year.
Yeah. And there was evidence that they were kind of at odds, but apparently that's been patched over.
Yeah.
So again, we might have to wait to tomorrow to see the final outcome of these strikes. How much damage was done, and how much Iran admits to. Because I don't think they're going to. If we totally destroyed the thing, I don't think that they're going to admit it. I think it would be just too humiliating.
Yeah, so you think Iran is just not going to admit
they're not going to admit it, but we can do our own assessments from satellite images and intelligence on the ground and the like, so it might prove very hard to cover up.
Yeah.
So what do you think the long-term ramifications will be?
I'm not even really sure to say, but I think this could very well lead to the fall of the Iranian regime if if the Shah gains enough confidence and it works.
Yeah, and of course the question is, will there be a peaceful transition to some kind of democratic republic or a return of the Shah, or will it plunge into another bloody civil war, which of course is the worst outcome, because it'll create a massive refugee crisis that'll destabilize other countries. And
hey, do you want to be hello, how you doing?
I'm good.
Who are you?
I'm a vice de bossy.
Welcome.
I am a vice de bossy.
You're using...
Have you not heard of a vice de bossy?
No.
Well, name sort of rings a bell, I'll say. Someone I know in the outside world.
A vice de bossy is a great, renowned journalist. I
Well,
have come here to entertain your opinions.
well, lay it on us.
What are we talking about tonight, gentlemen?
We're talking about the Iran situation.
Yeah, the U.S. strikes on their nuclear facilities.
And what are your thoughts, gentlemen?
I think that I hope for the fall of the Iranian regime, but I also hope for no war in Iran. I think that the idea of a ground invasion of Iran is kind of ludicrous. I don't see it happening.
These are contradicting opinions, gentlemen.
Interesting. So yeah, what I think is I hope we took out those sites. Like we really truly crushed their ability to make a bomb, and I hope it basically ends with just some air exchanges and no real ground invasion. I think that's the ideal outcome. Even there's some deal after this because we hold the cards. Like I said, we can keep bombing the shit out of them if we want to. But and that's what Trump said in his speech. So
We should keep bombing them.
well, if they don't make a deal, is what he said.
Even if they make a deal, even if they propose a deal, we should keep bombing them.
It's kind of an absurd thing to say because I don't think we should view negotiations as a means to an end because that just will not end well for us in the long run.
Negotiations are a means to an end, Mr. Host.
No. I mean, if we were to make a deal with them, we should actually, give them a way to not be invaded. We can't just you can't just say we'll not attack you and then go around and attack you. That's what Russia does.
And what is wrong with Russia?
That they're an aggressive imperialist power that invades their neighbors.
And what is wrong with imperialism?
Well, taking other people's countries from them and killing them is bad.
And who owns a country? Do you own a country? Do you own your country of origin? I think not.
Well, I live here. It's
But you do not own it. Your name is not on it.
oh, but it's my home.
Is it really, though?
Well, I live here. I mean, that's the definition of home.
And why do you live there?
Because we're born here.
I was born here.
And why were you born there?
That's not a question any of us can answer.
It is because of colonialism. European colonialism and imperialism.
Well, I guess you could apply that to the U.S., but that's not the case for most countries in the world. Not all of them exist because of colonialism.
No European country exists because of. There's no European country that exists because of colonialism. There's the people there. It was mostly their own political situation that caused the formation of countries there.
Mr. Host, your opinion, with all due respect, You can eat dick.
Interesting. Okay.
So your point is that the Western countries exist because of European colonialism.
Yes.
But my response to be to say this is that, like, first of all, it is literally like a different era in history. Like, so to just say that war is an eternal good because wars happened 500 years ago is kind of ludicrous. There are obviously different circumstances. Obviously, there were no nuclear bombs during the formation of the United States, and wars back then were just way less like totally encroaching than they are now.
Let me tell you something, Mr. Polmerica.
Yes.
I banged your mom last night, and she's from a different era of history.
Okay.
What do you have to say to that?
That is impossible.
Really?
I don't understand that comparison. That makes no sense.
The point is, I was banging your mother.
But like, yeah, it's like you also want to mention the fact of like, think about it like this for the comparison about war. While it is true that European countries, did come about, between, the point is that European countries did come about because of conquest, but like back then, you have to understand that countries would have gone to war regardless of what Europe did or not, and the goal is to build a world order that would not require such like things of consistently going to war, and that's something that at least we thought happened. It happened, after World War II, and arguably in the 90s too, because since World War II, the amount of war has significantly declined. Now the thing is that like the Russian invasion in Ukraine threatens to reverse that trend, and that's like part of the reason why it's like Russia's invasion of Ukraine is the first actual like Russia's invasion of Ukraine is literally the biggest ground war since World War II.
What was your point with that statement?
Did you get it, Zanzibag?
Yeah. No, it's that war is bad. It's bad when you attack other countries.
So
you're still white. You're still evil. You're still colonialists.
Well, are the victims of Russia's war in Ukraine also colonialists? I mean,
yes.
Where the heck did they colonize?
They took Russian land away from the Russians. That is when they became part of the problem.
Okay, what the... And where did this happen?
It happened during the war. What do you mean? They annexed Russian territory.
Okay.
Did you miss that part?
It's okay. How did they quote unquote annex Russian territory? Ukraine was a republic in the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union collapsed, so they became their own country. Yeah, like, also have to remember the fact that Russia in the 90s, they literally signed an agreement with Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus to dissolve the Soviet Union.
They took Russian territory during this 2022 Russo-Ukrainian war.
Oh, you're talking about Kursk, or well, that was after they were invaded. So
that doesn't make them good. That doesn't make it a good action. That makes them colonialists.
Well, they took it in the process of defending their own country.
They're sending people there now to colonize and put settlements.
No, they aren't. They don't really hold that territory anymore.
Dude, Ukraine doesn't even have the freaking population to do that. Their demographics are like literally fucking screwed. That is an absurd thing to say.
Screwed like your mother? Like I screwed your mother?
I think we're dealing with something of a troll here.
What do you mean? I am Avis Debussy, prime journalist from Australia.
Probably as a voice changer.
Yeah, no. I think I think I know this guy.
I don't know who you are.
He's gone.
Your name reminds me of someone I know in real life. Let's put it that way.
Who is this person? I guess I shouldn't have it. I don't know. Let me get him out of here. Just kick him out. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna boot him off the stream because that was a freaking waste.
That was weird. Yeah. This might be someone I know who is trolling us, and he's a bit of a fun guy, but I'll have to ask him.
Yeah. Okay, so
anyway, back on topic. So
can I just restart the stream?
Okay, sure.
Wait, let me see. I'd have to experiment. This is all getting recorded YouTube. I might
Yeah.
Actually, wait. No. This. Actually, I'll probably just tell people to skip it. Yeah. I don't have to restart the whole stream. That's kind of silly.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So the thing is that. Yeah. So the thing is. Yeah. So the thing about. So I also have to mention the fact that, like, what are the chances of the Shah coming back to Iran? Coming back to power?
I mean, at the moment, I'd say dubious, but for the time being, it's a remote possibility if the regime falls. That's one of many groups that could seize power there.
Yeah, I think the Shah probably has the best chance of seizing power if anyone does, because he has legitimacy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he has name recognition at least. And there's also other opposition groups in Iran that I'm not sure how much support they have.
Yeah.
Like there's one group, the People's Mujahideen, that was once famous for attacks against the regime, but now mostly exists in the West and was largely discredited after it fought alongside the Iraqi army during the Iran-Iraq war. So I don't think they have...
Oh, okay, then yeah. If anyone fought alongside the Iraqi army in the Iran-Iraq war, I do not see them being able to gain power.
Yeah, no. So, but yeah, if any group was to succeed the mullahs, it would probably be...
Because it's funny, because the Iran-Iraq war, actually, Saddam Hussein invaded Iran. Or no, Iran, sorry.
Right, and... Yeah.
That war was freaking brutal. That was like World War I trench warfare in the 1980s. It was like
it was between two armies that really didn't know how to fight, and so it was fucked up. And people don't like being invaded or bombed and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I just say because I think that. Because of the Shah, had his shortfalls, but I think the Shah still has popularity in Iran. So I'm going to hope that he seizes power, if anyone, in Iran, just because, I kind of doubt that democracy would be able to work in Iran right away. Like, the problem is that we could, if Iran becomes democratic, I'm afraid that it will go down the same route as Iraq or Afghanistan. It just won't work.
Right, like they'd have to have stability for anything like that to succeed. And
Yeah.
again, a prolonged military occupation is kind of off the cards at this moment.
Yeah, any sort of military occupation of Iran is off the cards. Number one, it's going to be very expensive. Russia and China are probably going to not allow it. The Europeans are probably not going to like it either. Also, the other problem is, but the main, ironically, compared to, what's ironic that people say that America, gets into wars for oil, when if anything, oil prices might actually be the thing to stop a war here.
Right. Like, I mean, if we destroy Iran's oil producing capability, that has the potential to drive up prices around the world.
Yeah, and like the
negative side effect of this was it could save Russia, which is currently kind of struggling as far as economic sustainability for its war.
Yeah, because if oil prices goes up, I'm hoping that if oil prices goes up, it'll lead us to phase off of oil as a power source. But
right. I mean, hopefully that's a long-term.
You can't do that. It would take a long time to do that. But like I just think we should get off oil as a fuel, not only for environmental reasons, but also to like not be dependent on like Russia or the Middle East for energy.
Yeah, and because that would lessen our dependence on hostile regimes like the Russian and Iranian dictatorships, which would be good. But countries like that can't hold the world hostage over energy and stuff.
Yeah, like countries like Russia and Iran, they lose their leverage like without oil, and
Yes.
But then I mean, we could go obviously build nuclear power, which uranium. Well, the thing is that like the biggest sources of uranium are Australia and Kazakhstan, who I don't necessarily think are any much danger. Like,
yeah.
Like Kazakhstan is authoritarian, but it's not aggressive.
It's not aggressive. It's not an ideological regime. It's just sort of a standard tin pot developmentalist regime.
Yeah, I don't actually think Kazakhstan is that bad. If anything, they're actually trying to move away from being dependent on Russia.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. It's something we should encourage.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. It's like obviously being good for good for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should encourage Russia's satellite states in Central Asia to distance themselves.
Well, they gotta have. I think Kazakhstan is like.
Yeah, but like it's something we should.
The point is that uranium, like we're to gain uranium. We don't have to rely on the same types of regimes we rely on for oil. But to be fair, America also produces a lot of oil itself. As a matter of fact, America is the biggest producer of oil in the world.
Right, and I just recently heard someone say that we don't really need to be super involved in the Middle East because we have enough oil.
Yeah. The thing is that I do not agree that America's involvement in the Middle East has anything to do with oil. If you wanted to keep... So the idea that America is going to war for oil is like fucking ludicrous. I feel like if you actually thought about it for like a few minutes, you'd probably realize it's just absurd. And the reason it's absurd is because war is fucking bad for oil prices. Like you have to remember the fact that any regime in these countries would gladly sell its oil because it's literally what keeps it afloat.
Because you make money that way, but
going to war, if you go to fucking war, it's literally bad. It destroys like all the infrastructure there. So like, if you wanted, stable oil prices, you want to avoid war, not, create war.
Right. And again, one of the great arguments against the war on terror being about oil was Iraq didn't really export much more oil to the U.S. after the invasion than before. Yeah.
And there's just no reason why America needed Iraqi oil. I think it's an absurd argument. Like,
we already had access to it, so that war was not about oil.
America already had access to Iraqi oil before the fucking. America already had access to the oil there before the war, and it's like. Also, like, Also not to mention the fact about the Iraq War that also not to mention the fact that Russia supported the Iraq War at the time, which if America is doing it for oil, they 100% would have knocked it down.
Yeah, no.
What don't you think? Because if Russia knew America is doing the war for oil, they'd obviously knock it down because they benefit from oil prices going up.
Right.
This logical, statement there. It's like.
So yeah, we have no direct interest in taking Iran's oil, and I know a lot of idiots are going to parrot exactly that. So no.
Yeah, it's like no. We already buy Iran's oil, which is why the war threatens to increase oil prices. If anything, the war is going to cause oil prices to go up. So
yeah, no, it's again not about oil, and they think every war, even the ones that aren't in the Middle East, are about oil. It's really ridiculous.
People are trying to say Israel Gaza is about oil, which is freaking ludicrous. Dude, it's like the thing you don't understand is that these people. It's like the thing is, I think these people have they have a set of beliefs about how America is bad and they just go by it, but they don't really think it through.
Yeah, it's part of it is just reflexively believing that the U.S. is always bad, always a force for...
And they think America is bad in a very weird way as well. Thinking that Iraq was about oil, which is freaking absurd.
Yeah.
I don't even think Iraq. I think Iraq was literally just about overthrowing Saddam Hussein, and also okay. The thing is that America. The thing is that after the Gulf War, America had plans to overthrow Saddam Hussein. They would have tried to find a way to do it regardless. But the thing is that it had nothing to do with oil. It had simply to do with the fact that we wanted Saddam Hussein out.
Yeah, because we saw that as part of our war on terror strategy, get rid of all anti-American regimes in that region.
Yeah, and that's, kind of a fair point. But, I think, to be fair, firstly, one of the reasons we want to get rid of him is because we invaded Kuwait.
Yeah,
in the Gulf War, we didn't push into Iraq during the Gulf War. We just pushed him out of Kuwait. But, we had plans to get rid of Saddam Hussein during the Gulf War. So even then, the Iraq, you can make the argument, the Iraq War wasn't actually aggressive because, we were planning to get rid of Saddam Hussein
for a decade
For a decade, yeah, because of the Iraq-Kuwait situation. Now you have to understand that before the Gulf War, Saddam Hussein was actually a U.S. ally against Iran.
Right. Well, I mean, we supported them both being weakened, but yeah, as a strategic move, both the U.S. and the Soviet Union at the time gave support to Saddam Hussein.
Wait, the Soviets and the Americans both supported Saddam Hussein?
Yes.
Wait, why? Why did
it's one of those wars where the who supported whose side is super fucked up.
Yeah, it's a lot of them during the Cold War. Look at the Nigerian Civil War. Yeah, but the thing is that, if anything, I don't even think if you really compare wars America has been involved in, the Iraq War itself wasn't even that bad. The problem is we freaking blundered it.
Yeah.
It's Saddam Hussein invades Kuwait. We kick him out of Kuwait, but then we say, we're going to overthrow him 10 years down the line. It's why did they wait so long to do that?
Yeah, no, it's in 1991,
if we had plans to overthrow Saddam Hussein, why did we wait 10 years to do that? And why did we wait so long to the point that it looks like a war of aggression? It just doesn't really...
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
I don't think the people then fully, thought that through.
And
I think
I know part of why they didn't go all the way, and it's because... we were worried that if we overthrew Saddam then and there, even though the whole world would have been on our side, we would have strengthened Iran in the region. So we wanted him to stay for the time being to sort of counterbalance Iran.
Yeah.
But, after 9/11, you had the Axis of Evil speech, and we saw them as part of the same terrorist threat that all had to be taken out.
Yeah, and I do wonder if if it was a blunder. It was no. It was a blunder to take out Saddam Hussein 10 years after. We either should have not done it or did it. Like I don't. We waited so long that it looked like an offensive war at the time.
No, yeah. So I do think we should have taken him out during the first Gulf War.
I say that if we ever would have taken him out, we should have taken him out in the Gulf War. I feel like that was kind of our big chance to do that, and I feel like we kind of missed the chance after 9/11 because at that point, just be like, oh, it's an offensive war, Now, to be fair, because we did during the Iraq Wars, we talked about Iran having WMDs, and we got everyone on our side, and then it's like, oh shit, turns out this all was bullshit, and turns out, oh, we blundered the post-war situation in Iran and not Iraq. Now the situation's a total mess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but the biggest blunder of Iraq is the fact that we, I'd say the fact that we invaded a country and tried to shape Iraq in a way that's favorable to America, and we just failed miserably at that.
Right.
Same thing with Afghanistan. The biggest embarrassment of those conflicts is the fact that we did not make these countries into. And I would say that the biggest blunder of this is that I think we overextended. We tried too hard to make Iraq and Afghanistan into democracies when, in my opinion, I think we should just put a monarchy there for more, just for stability.
At one point there was majority support in the Afghan Loya Jirga after the U.S. invasion to restore the monarch who had been deposed back in 1973 and was willing to take up the role again. And the U.S. representative personally vetoed this. That was a very
big mistake. And I think that if obviously I'm a monarchist and also I think we should have just restored the monarchy in Afghanistan. Because he would have brought stability to Afghanistan. He might not have been perfectly aligned with Western democratic values, but he would have brought stability back to the region. He would have kept the Taliban out of power, and that's the mission and all. But Bush Jr. wanted to mold Iraq and Afghanistan into the American way of politics, and that was just very stupid.
It was a major mistake.
I do not think that they fully thought through what they were doing there. And the other thing is you have to understand, is that there are many countries in the world where America, you have to understand that nation building has genuinely worked in many countries in the world. Nation building is a bad rep because of Iraq and Afghanistan, but it has genuinely worked in other parts of the world.
Germany
and Japan, South Korea are three, really good examples of nations that were occupied by the United States. And the thing is, it's a difference. We, as an example, it's current South Korea. We let South Korea be authoritarian for a long time, and then eventually they transitioned to democracy. Same thing with, I think, Taiwan as well. Oh, yeah, you also put Taiwan in examples of American nation. Yeah. The thing is, with Taiwan, Germany and Japan, they already had democratic. Germany and Japan already had a history of being democracies, so they, we could let them, we could give it to them right away. But the thing is that, we let South Korea and Taiwan be authoritarian for a period of time to transition the countries into democracies, and in both countries it worked out really well.
Yeah, and the thing is, the country needs to be stable and firmly under your control to do successful nation building. The problem with Iraq and Afghanistan is we tried to build democracy while they weren't really pacified.
Yeah. And we also made some baffling mistakes. Apparently people we would give the Iraqis credit cards. We didn't know how to use them.
Yeah, no, a big mistake that was made was a de-Baathification, actually. We went out of our way to totally purge Saddam-era officials and bureaucrats from the government. And I mean,
that's a very big
dictatorship. But, it ended up totally gutting the state and weakening its response to the insurgency. And a lot of these people just ended up going over to the insurgents.
that's a very big blunder. And the reason why it's a big blunder is simply because, like, in order to make a state be able to transition into a more functioning country, functioning democracy, especially, like, you need to have, or really any government system, in order to mold a state into what you want to make them, you need to have a level of stability, and that's I think the fact that we purged every single government official that's part of Saddam's regime is like, man, that's so silly because, as an example, in Germany, we allowed a lot of the former Nazis to remain in power because they kept the state stable.
Right. Yeah, that was the point. And ditto for post-communist governments after the Cold War. They didn't just purge everyone who'd ever held office under communism because that would deprive them of managerial ability.
Yeah, it's like, the problem is you have to understand that when you're building an entire nation, when you're trying to do this type of nation building, you can't, you have to accept that some people who oppose you or even did bad things are going to have to be there because you'd rather have your nation turn out stable as opposed to not having a few people in the government just to punish them, even when it's bad for the long-term stability of the nation.
Right, like you have to look past pure ideological goals to be able to build a functional state. We did it in both Germany and Japan.
And that's why we did it. And that's why Germany and Japan both became so successful.
Right, yeah. Even at the cost of including some people with real dubious backgrounds.
Yeah.
The Soviets in East Germany were slightly different, but they had a ready-made cadre of communists that they could just import and make new bureaucracy.
The thing is that Germany already had an existing socialist party at the time.
Yeah, that's the thing. And their members had gone into exile in Moscow during. But
actually, East Germany had a bigger. But East Germany actually had more former Nazis in their government than West Germany, from what I could tell.
Yeah, that was something they always tried to cover up.
Wasn't it a lot of Stasi members are part of the SS?
Well, yeah, especially in military ranks too. That was one thing that neither the West, nor the Soviets had any experience handling. So, former Nazis had to form the bulk of those.
The bulk of what?
Of military types.
Oh, so we didn't. Wait, what do you mean we didn't know how to handle a military?
No, it's we needed Germans who knew how to handle a military. So, in the former Wehrmacht people were the only ones available.
One of the famous things, the other famous example is Werner von Braun, who literally led the rocket launch to the.
Oh yeah, and again, people forget that the Soviets had more German scientists on their side than the U.S. did. But we're getting a bit off track. The point is, you make these sacrifices when remaking regimes. And if the Iranian regime ever falls, people.
But then again, the whole point is that we shouldn't do in Iraq what we did in Afghanistan or Iraq, literally at all.
Yeah, these were big mistakes of those wars that cost us big time.
Yeah. Because the thing is, it's honestly, I don't even think we should have done the Iraq War at the time we did. I feel like, the chance on us to overthrow Saddam was kind of over after the Gulf War.
Yeah, I agree. We should have done it.
I think that the whole fact that we made up this whole thing about WMDs is really fucking bad.
Yeah. It was, and it's a big reason why trust in the government decreased so massively.
Yeah, but I guess it is a topic to talk about how a lot of people well, it's kind of funny because it's funny to hear when Trump, what Trump just did is that I genuinely do believe that a lot of the reason that the Iraq War is a big reason why Trump is even in office today.
Yeah, it undermined trust in our government. It gave credence to voices on the fringe who claimed to be against the establishment that had led us into these disastrous wars.
Yeah, the thing is that, like, mainly I think it undermined the Republican establishment.
Yes, because, they were most associated with it.
I think the Democrats did not get nearly as much damage from the Iraq War because Obama was opposed to Iraq and he became the leader of the Democratic Party for a while.
Yeah, and his election and like the 2006 blue wave before it were blowback against the war on terror.
Yeah. But I also have to remember the fact that Obama like beat Hillary, as I said before. Obama beat Hillary in the primary by saying that he was against the Iraq War, but Hillary Clinton was not. That's part of the big reason because, like, if you look at the 2008 primary, it was like very close.
It was.
It was a very heated. It's funny because you always see Obama and Hillary in the same set today, but you have to remember the fact that like Obama won the 2008 primary by like 0.1%. Hillary Clinton almost beat Obama in the primary.
Right, absolutely.
And so part of the reason that Obama was able to get the edge over Hillary Clinton is because, again, he was opposed to the Iraq War.
Yeah, and so when
not necessarily being opposed, but Obama could say that he didn't vote for the Iraq War while Hillary did, and that's part of the reason he won.
Yeah, and he famously ended that war, and I mean, the way he ended it is open to criticism because, the power vacuum helped lead to the rise of ISIS.
Yeah, the way he ended the war, you could definitely criticize, but the problem is that he had to end the thing is, I'm not sure he really thought about that. I think Obama wanted to end the war in Iraq because it was very unpopular and that obviously be a big. I think he wanted to end the war. I'm not entirely sure about this, but I think he wanted to end the war before the 2012 election because that'd be a big political boost to him.
Yeah, and it kind of was. But, we had to return just a few years after that to fight ISIS.
Yeah. I'll say part of the reason for... I'd also probably argue that Mitt Romney's defeat in 2012 partially led to Trump because it decreased confidence in the establishment Republicans to win elections.
Yeah, they thought he wasn't combative enough. He didn't attack where it hurt the most. And of course, Trump's big appeal is that he's totally unapologetic. There's no shame. And is not willing to back down. And
I don't necessarily think that. I think Mitt Romney's defeat led to a lot of establishment Republicans kowtowing to Trump because they thought he was their only chance to get in power at all.
Yeah, it's because, again, the trends at that time in terms of demographics didn't look very good for the Republicans, and Trump was able to reverse at least some of those.
Yeah. But I do wonder if, I honestly think those trends would have reversed anyway. And the reason why I think those trends would have reversed is because a lot of immigrants historically, they vote liberal, but then later on, they kind of, once the second, third generation of immigrants come down, they tend to even out in politics. So there's an example. So historically, Polish Americans, when they first came to the United States, they tended to be very liberal. But now they vote more conservative than liberal in the modern day, as generations, pass down. And so the thing is that the same thing today is happening with Mexicans and Asians. Well, they first supported the Democrats. I think that because they're simply, becoming,
as they get more integrated into society,
as they get more integrated into American society, they vote more like white Americans.
Yes, and so this is just part of that trend again. And Nixon and Reagan ran on the white ethnics, the non-Anglo whites, the Poles, Italians, Irish, and the like. And it was the last gasp of that kind of politics.
Was it Nixon the first Republican to win white ethnics?
Yes, famously, and that's what helped spur the rise of conservatism later on. So I think we're about to see another big realignment in the process.
Yeah, but the problem is I don't think Trump's presidency is going to be good for realignment for American conservatism. I think a lot of people, it's
because he might just get discredited with all his actions. Though we'll see what the net effect of these Iran strikes are.
Yeah, I would say that. One thing, if Trump, I actually think that Trump's approval rating, if Trump was able to top, okay, I'm going to say this, really bad. I think Trump's approval rating will go up significantly if he's able to topple the Iranian regime without going to war.
Yes, I think this has the potential to either make or break the future of his presidency.
I feel like this whole situation is kind of make or break for his legacy. Like, if Trump is, if the if the Iranian regime falls on his watch without a war, like his approval rating is going to go up significantly.
Right, but again, this is something that's in incredible flux right now, and we will see what happens.
Yeah. So then again, not really sure.
And again, we'll see tomorrow what exactly happens, if this escalates into a broader war or if they both back down, because I don't think either side has anything to gain from a very long, protracted war, but Iran least of all.
Yeah, I think that I'm pretty confident that, they'll probably Trump will probably look for a deal that would allow him to claim victory. I don't really think Trump will just look for a deal that will allow him to claim victory. I don't really see him but also the thing is that, part of me also doubts that Iran will fall, because I'm not even sure. I think sure Trump wants to actually put in the effort to topple Iran. I think he just wants to he wants to make these strikes so he can claim victory. I think he wants to get a favorable deal is the goal here.
Right, and we'll see if that comes about.
Yeah, I already said this before, but you have to understand that Trump was never anti-war. The thing is that Trump is not anti-war. He more believes that all of the previous wars were done by people that didn't know how to handle the military, and so they were turned into complete boondoggles. But Trump thinks that he's able to show enough strength that everyone will just capitulate to him, and then it won't even need to be.
Yeah, he really likes this idea of striking the big epic blow, and that makes everyone cower into submission before him.
Yeah. So, Trump is, so it makes him kind of have a dual thing of being able to campaign against the Iraq War and stuff like that. But, he campaigns against the Iraq War on the fact that everyone involved were idiots, not necessarily that, going to war is bad.
Yeah.
So it's Trump doesn't think war is bad. He just thinks everyone everyone involved in geopolitics are morons, and so they're screwing over America for that reason.
Right.
And the fact that Trump still ultimately wants America to be the center of the world.
Totally, just on our own terms, America first.
Saying Trump is an anti-imperialist is just wrong. That's stupid.
Right, and the median voter both wants us not to have any more wars or spend money on these tools of hard or soft power, but also be respected as the world's dominant power. So yeah, it's classic.
The average American voter wants fucking contradictory things. The average American voter wants literally no taxes, but also wants Social Security. I mean, it's
we want lower taxes and more social spending. So yeah, it's schizophrenic. And as a democracy,
the average American voter is not. The average American voter is not particularly the best informed that we know. You look at polls, and it's if you look at, we want Social Security, but we also want no taxes. That's the average American voter.
Yeah. So we get the government we deserve. I will say that much. Anyway, so this has been interesting, and it's been just about an hour, so I should probably go to bed soon. But yeah, we'll find some other time for a stream.
All right, well, see you later.
See you later. This has been fun. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.